the planet Earth.
Some call me nature.
I am very passionate about the planet
Earth.
A living, breathing planet capable of sustaining whatever life forms we see fit to deposit on it.
Spock, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived.
It's the planet stupid.
No. It's the planet stupid.
So, Belinda, before we get into whatever it is that we need to talk about, there was someone ice skating, and hi to you too. I didn't get to interview you last week because Mark did a pre-tape with you, and just want to know you're all right. Everybody's safe in Weymouth World.
We are. Thank you so much. We are safe in Weymouth World. We did have a big branch come down on our roof in the winds on the Tuesday night. But luckily I had the tree cabled because I knew that it was a danger to our house. And the cable actually, there were two branches, and the big one that fell down, the cable onto the other one stopped it from crashing into our roof. It just, broke and then hung there. And that is minuscule in comparison to what so many thousands of people are going through. I have friends who've lost everything. I know I'm incredibly lucky. It was a little bit scary, but nothing like the terror I know so many other Californians have faced and are facing now in the aftermath of it.
It's an astonishing thing, and it's really hard to fathom what people are dealing with. Can't even put.
It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible,
Right. When there are no words, sometimes there really are no words. It's like there's nothing in the English language that describes the feeling of seeing a place so devastated, and that it's happened to those people. It's incredible too that most people and the numbers of people who survived were astonishing in light of the devastation too. So that's good.
Yeah. The loss is so monumental, and I think we'll be reeling from it and coming to terms with it, I think, for a very long time. And this is the same, with all these, disasters that happen, the flooding and the heat waves and the things that the planet is going through, and also, they may be loving this cold snap on the, in states that don't normally get snow, Florida. I've got a friend in New Orleans who's thrilled at the snow.
Right.
But, there are already deaths from the cold weather. We can't cope with temperatures that get, down. Once we get to 90, our body temperature gets down to 95, we're in danger of hypothermia. We can't get too hot. We can't get too cold,
Right. So Belinda, let's talk about, I have one question about New Orleans and because I was really taken. I lived in New Orleans at one point. I was really taken with the images of snow in the French Quarter. It was beautiful, and skating on Canal Street was beautiful because I play hockey. There's this gentleman skating on Canal Street, now skating toward the river there on Canal Street. It's just great, and so I like every time something like this happens. I mean, can we still be excited about it and think it's really cool and it's a once in a lifetime or it's a once in a blue moon thing without it being Chicken Little, the sky is falling? I mean, I know we reflexively go to climate change as we ought to, but sometimes, this is pretty cool.
You're going to make me be the downer on the snow that people are loving. As you know, we're in this incredible, moment with the planet. And a thing that I was talking about with Mark last week, and I actually sent over a visual, and I was saying to Tony, have it on standby, we could show it, what happens when you have this atmosphere that has so much more moisture in it, and how it makes the planet so much more volatile. Because what this shows you here is, for every degree that the planet warms, the atmosphere is able to hold 7% more moisture. And it's the moisture in the atmosphere that's driving the droughts. When the planet is super hot and the atmosphere can, evaporate all the moisture basically out of the earth because, the temperatures are so hot that water evaporates, it goes up into the atmosphere. And then when the atmosphere gets into a situation where it's ready to drop that water, it's got even more water in it to, make the floods more devastating than they actually are. With an extra 3 degrees, it can hold 22% more water. And the water also is the thing. Water vapor, turning into ice and back again, releases so much energy in the atmosphere that's what makes the hurricanes and the tornadoes, these superstorms that we experience. And right now what's happening, and that's just one thing, that's, sort of extreme weather events that we're having. And I really want to get onto, what's happened this week for the climate.
No, we will. But I think people have, we've really been,
So the thing also that
a lot of time looking at this,
yeah. So the thing that's happening right now with this, intense cold weather. So, you hear about the polar vortex all the time. So the polar vortex is this it's like a loose rubber band. It sits at 60 degrees latitude north. So it's just sort of around the Arctic Circle. And basically what the polar vortex does is it holds the weather in place, the really cold air over the Arctic Circle, and then the warmer air is underneath this. I'm trying to make it look like a rubber band. So this rubber band vortex, and it keeps the planet livable. But what happens is it goes wonky now because we've got such a disparity in temperatures, and the Arctic is heating up 4 times faster than anywhere else on the planet. So the polar vortex is really sort of reeling and doing this sort of crazy kind of, these gyrations because as you lose ice and you get dark ocean absorbs more heat. Ice and white reflect, the heat, the energy from the sun back into the atmosphere. But once that ice is melted, you get hotter and hotter seawater. So the Arctic becomes more temperamental. And we've seen this in the last couple of years. I mean, remember when we had those crazy storms in Texas? They had no electricity. They had all that ice and snow. They were freezing. People died. They didn't have the capacity to get electricity from other states because they're a band of one. They are completely self-reliant with their energy, and it was a disaster. And I don't want to rain on people's parade because I get, snow is fun and building a snowman. Yes, I wish it snowed in my backyard yesterday. But we, we're really seeing incredibly temperamental weather. This right on top of these disastrous California fires, and now we have a second Trump administration, and he came in. Blazing basically a fire torch at all his eco peeves, everything that he doesn't want us to be part of, or, the hoax of climate change, he wants to dismantle right away. And I would argue this might not be the time to be doing that.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, again, he won, and elections have consequences, as we said earlier, but this is a consequence that should supersede American politics. This is the globe coming together, and the world and community of nations coming together to try and address something that is real. And we are the holdouts here. And so tell me what you can about what the ramifications, even if briefly, are of stepping out of this. We can all raise our fists in frustration over the fact that it's happening, but what are some of the facts about it that would help understand why it's terrible?
Okay. Well, one of the craziest things with stepping out of the Paris Climate Accord for a second time is that this basically it's a complete sort of kowtowing to the fossil fuel, lobbyists, the companies that spent millions and millions of dollars to help get him reelected. I mean, this drill, baby, drill. You're saying you're doing what these CEOs of ExxonMobil, etc., want, but you're not doing what the American people want, pulling us out of Paris. So a poll recently showed that only 2 out of 10, so only a fifth of Americans believe that we should be pulled out of Paris. 80% of his constituents don't believe that. And obviously the timing is crazy. We knew that he was going to do it. He told us he was going to do it. But here's the thing: it will take a year for it to become official because you don't just pull out of it. It takes a year. So there'll be another COP at the end of the year in Brazil, and there will be Americans there as part of the discussions. Hopefully. But after that, in a year's time, we'll be joining a team of winners. The other countries that are not part of the Paris Climate Accord are Libya, Yemen, and Iran. So we'll be part of that team that says no to an international climate agreement. And the thing about it is, Trump doing this really puts sort of American exceptionalism first, because the policy that he signed, which was part of, pulling us out of Paris, is called, and I'll read it here, Putting America First in International Environmental Agreements. Absolute nonsense, because here's the thing that's so crazy is by pulling us out of this international agreement that by the way, is not a ripoff. It's not binding. You don't have to meet the emissions reductions that you might have pledged. Even though developed countries have talked about giving developing countries money to help them mitigate and adapt to, the real brunt of climate change that they're already feeling with, sea level rise and storms. None of that is actually, really concretely happening. In fact, it's being walked back. But the thing that we really do is that we lose any political influence in really shaping what is a booming green energy, a booming green energy moment. This is happening. And this is the thing that I talk about all the time, is it's like we're in a period of change. Human beings hate change, and it's a real push-pull. And so what we're seeing with, each, consecutive administration here, you go from Obama to Trump, we go backwards on environmental things. Biden comes in, we go forwards again. And then Trump comes in and he wants to renege on everything. But we're really... we're not doing ourselves any favor, because this, clean tech revolution is happening, and this move to renewables. And one of the things that's kind of ironic is one of the first things that he said is, no more offshore wind. It's a blight to our natural environment, and it doesn't help our energy needs. Well, that's just not true, Mr. President. And the thing that's wild is, do you know which state produces the most energy from wind by far? Texas. Texas produces more than double the amount of renewable energy that we produce here in California. And then after Texas, you've got three other red states. You've got Oklahoma, Kansas, and Iowa. They are huge wind producers. So, you are saying no to any, new offshore wind. You want to pull back on wind projects that are already, in place, in installation, the process of that happening on federal lands. But you've got these four red states. They're not going to stop making the money, they want that revenue that renewable energy generates. And the other thing is that the guy he's talked about being his energy secretary, when he was in hearings last week, he didn't disavow wind. He said he would keep all energy options on the table. So it's like I said, we're going to be in this crazy push-pull. And the thing with wind, I mean, wind is a no-brainer. We generate enough wind in these states to power the whole of the continental US. Our offshore wind is so abundant, we could generate enough electricity for the continental US twice over.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And we know that. The other thing that I always found amazing too, when I was out on the campaign trail, was the notion that we are now, I mean, I don't know today, but there were, and I think it's probably today, taking more oil out of the ground in the United States than we ever have in the history of this country. And that notion, up to next to drill, baby, drill, is an astonishing thing. Well, we are drilling, baby. We're drilling, right? And we're taking more out. I have no opinion. I mean, I do have an opinion, but I'm not stating an opinion on it. It's a fact, and that's what's happening. And as an oil producing nation, we're doing our part, yet they feel like there's more that needs to be done because it's a good campaign slogan, and it flies into. And what's really important too, I think, about the Green New Deal, but also about the Paris Climate Accord, is that it's aspirational. And we need to do aspirational things in this country, because that is it's saying we're going to go to the moon in 10 years. That's that's part of the American credo in that way. And I think that this is that for these times, and that's a big part of what dropping out takes away from America.
Yeah, absolutely. And we give all these other countries the lead in, I mean, China is stepping into the void that the US is creating by doing this. And, they're already producing more solar panels than we are, and the tariffs will, make it very difficult for the importing of these, solar panels and parts. And it's just a step backward when, yes, we could be the leaders. It's so not a visionary moment. It's so not, like you say, like what America has sort of prided itself on, that, that aspirationally, when Kennedy said, we're going to put a man on the moon, it got Americans excited, and you could get Americans really excited about this transition, and it would be, for our benefit. It would absolutely be for our benefit, not, to our detriment. And unfortunately, this drill, baby, drill. And the other thing that's crazy about it, when he talks about, that there's a national energy emergency, it's not about oil and gas, because as you said, we're drilling more of that than ever. It's actually about renewables and how quickly we need to move to them. And under Biden, and with all this, this incredible increase in the drilling, did it reduce prices of energy? It doesn't. So what he's saying isn't even true. The thing that he's claiming is he's going to reduce the price of energy and reduce inflation. That hasn't happened so far. That hasn't happened under Biden. Do you think it's going to magically happen under you?
Right. That's exactly it. I mean, that's part of it. We don't have a lot of time. I do want to ask you quickly about California.
Yeah.
So two things. One is the dryness, which is something I know you want to talk about, but also the opposite of that. There's rain expected. Tell me briefly why that's both good and bad, and how we want to have just a little bit of rain in California, but not too much.
Yeah. Well, the terrible thing that happens, and we had this in Montecito, just up by Santa Barbara, I think it was back in 2017 when we had those awful mudslides, is that after the fires and after you lose all your vegetation, you lose everything that holds onto the soil. And so if you get a real deluge of rain, you can have these awful mudslides, and those are completely damaging too. And this is what we're seeing. Last week I was talking about with Mark this thing called this hydroclimate whiplash, where not just California but lots of places in the world, they go from this period where they're having incredible rains, which we did over the 2023-2024 winter. We had, we were deluged with rain in Southern California and in Northern California. Right now, we haven't been getting rain in Southern California, but that incredible amount of, weather with, producing snow and, water and filling up the aquifers causes all the vegetation to grow. And then we get this whiplash with the hydroclimate, and we get a period of drought. We've had, no rain this winter since October. We've at Los Angeles has had 0.16 of an inch of rain. So we've been in this incredibly dry situation, and it meant that there was all this fuel for the fires, and we've had these fires. And now if we got, in an incredible inundation of rain, we wouldn't be in a good position, because the other thing, as we saw with the fires, they were all in the hills, because the incredible Santa Anas came zooming down the hills. And the hills are where the mudslides, could really be detrimental.
Yeah,
it's a back and forth. It's really intense. So yeah, I wanted to show this because we had one of our listeners, actually a woman from Australia, she brought up something that I mentioned last week, and I want to correct that. So this shows you we had very severe Santa Ana winds back in 2011. But as you can see there was only a tiny area of, extreme, of drought, and it wasn't even extreme. But this year, January 7th, when we got those incredible Santa Anas, we had a lot of places in drought, and that's why there was so much fuel, and the fires were so incredibly destructive. And it's being written about this hydroclimate whiplash that we're going, between two, a very arid climate and a very moist climate, and how dangerous that is.
It's I mean that tells you everything you need to know and how quickly it changed. But there are going to be people who say it's anomalous, but when you see the results of it, it's hard to argue against it. It's also hard, Belinda Weymouth, to argue against the scientists who tell us it's so. So don't listen to me.
Yeah, and I want to, Tony, could you show us the graph of the Santa Anas? It's the one with the red bars, and it shows the amount of Santa Ana winds and then the area burned. I just wanted to put that up quickly because last week when I was talking about it, I actually misspoke, and I was talking about how I said the red side showed the prevalence of the Santa Anas, and the other side showed how they increased, the Santa Anas increased the fires. But actually what the right-hand one shows is the area burned. So you can see that the area burnt during a Santa Ana event is really huge. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I wanted to quickly, do we have a minute to tell you some good news that's happening in federal agencies, particularly the EPA?
We always have 1 minute for good news. Okay.
Okay. So what happened during the first Trump administration was so detrimental and awful for people in the EPA. And, scientists were so demoralized and were leaving by the hundreds. Climate change and anything to do with the environment was being wiped off their websites, and they were being completely discredited. Well, on day one of Biden's administration, they started putting up firewalls and protections for themselves in case what happened on Monday happened, that we had an incoming administration that was going to once again try to get rid of any mention of climate change and environmental science and all those things. And so these are the things they've put in place. So they are called scientific integrity policies, and they're created to protect scientific research and also the publishing of it. Because obviously, to protect Americans, science needs to be unbiased. And that's what our federal scientists are trying to do. They're trying to do research that protects us, and it can't be have political interference and be biased. And so what they've done is they have these scientific integrity officers in place to make sure these policies are adhered to. We now have 30 of them in the EPA and different organizations. During Trump, there were less than 12. They tell scientists what to do if political appointees try to block their science and research. There are penalties for such violations by these politicians. There are actually, penalties that have been put in place. And then there are new union contracts with consequences for political appointees who try to retaliate against scientists who they see as not upholding what, an administration that says, climate change is a hoax, etc. is. So, and these scientists, there are scientists who have, came back in the thousands under the Biden administration. And some of them are saying, look, we have the mettle, we have the experience to know how to weather, the onslaught that we're going to get against our work. And you have to applaud them, because I think this is super brave to know that you're going to be standing up to an administration that wants to undermine everything you do and really penalize and hurt you. But you're there saying, no, the science is important. And we also have mayors and other government officials who have said, hey, Trump, you may be pulling America out of the Paris Climate Accord, but we're not. Our cities are still in it. I mean, the mayor of Phoenix has said, this is about our constituents, and we're not pulling out of Paris. We we will be in the Paris Climate Accord. So it's not just he comes in and says it's over, and it's over, because there are so many organizations, government officials, scientists, experts who aren't saying, no to science, and that climate change, is a hoax, because you say it is.
Well, that is indeed good news, and we'll take it wherever we can find it. Belinda Weymouth, thank you so much. It is, as we know, and as we say all the time, it's the planet, stupid.
Yeah, our planet, our home.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Belinda.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
See you.
So
More
It's the planet, stupid. No, it's the planet, stupid.
next time, only on The Mark Thompson Show.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.